You hit a nerve when Donald Trump cancels trade talks with Canada over a Doug Ford commercial. Something any reasonable G7 leader would do, right? Today, we'll look at what happened, Trump's reaction, and where things stand now. This is North of MAGA, and I'm your host, Pierre Shields. We're doing something fun today. As requested, you can download your PDF Dad Rant Bingo card from the description below and play along. So here's what happened. The Ontario provincial government under Doug Ford launched a U.S.-targeted advertising campaign, roughly worth $75 million, that used an excerpt of a 1987 radio address by Ronald Reagan, as you probably already have heard, in which Reagan warned that high tariffs and trade wars ultimately harm American workers. The commercials ran on major U.S. networks and during the World Series, aiming squarely at American audiences, especially Republican-leading districts, with a clear message: free trade benefits both countries. And tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and autos ultimately backfires. The ad quoted Reagan directly, quote, "When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing something patriotic, but only for a short time. High tariffs lead to retaliation, markets shrink, millions lose their jobs," end quote. Ford's government argued that Reagan's speech was in the public domain as a presidential address, and that it was used unedited, positioning the campaign as both historically accurate and politically savvy. Trump's reaction? When the ad aired, Donald Trump reacted explosively. On Truth Social, he posted, in all caps, of course, quote, "They only did this to interfere with the U.S. Supreme Court. Tariffs are very important. All trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated." It kind of sounds like a king. "Are hereby terminated." Crazy. Trump accused Ontario of using a fraudulent ad, claiming it misused Reagan's words, called it fake, and said Canada was trying to influence U.S. trade policy. Unfriggin' believable. Within hours, his administration suspended trade talks between the U.S. and Canada, but instead of ending the story, it did the opposite. The Streisand Effect. Trump's outrage amplified the ad's reach far beyond Ontario's expectations. By publicly denouncing it, he triggered what media analysts call the Streisand Effect, when an attempt to suppress or attack something only makes it more visible. So ironic. Clips of the ad and Reagan's voice went viral across X, YouTube, and TikTok, reaching millions of Americans who otherwise would never have seen it. In effect, Trump handed Ford's team millions of views in free media exposure, making the ad more successful than its budget alone could have achieved. What started as a targeted regional message became an international story, a debate over tariffs, free trade, and political irony. When you look at Google Trends and type in Reagan tariffs, it's amazing what pops up. Let's take a look at this. So October 24th was the peak, 100%. Craziness. Why it matters. The ad marks a rare instance of a Canadian government, even a provincial one, running political messaging directly inside the United States, attempting to shape U.S. public opinion using one of America's most beloved conservative figures. It highlights ongoing tensions in Canada-U.S. trade relations, particularly over steel, aluminum, auto parts, and lumber. For Trump, tariffs are part of his America First Doctrine and a signature economic tool. Being challenged with Reagan's own words, a Republican icon, once again, put him in an awkward position with his base. For Ford, the campaign had two clear goals: show Canadians he's defending jobs and industries against U.S. protectionism. Great. Second one, pressure U.S. lawmakers and voters to reconsider tariff policies that hurt both economies. Ironically, the fierce reaction from Trump suggests the ad hit exactly where it was aimed. So ironic. Points of contention. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation objected to the ad, arguing that it took Reagan out of context, noting that in the same 1987 address, Reagan also defended certain tariffs on Japan for unfair trade practices. The foundation also said Ontario had not requested permission to use or excerpt the remarks. Seriously. Oh, and the Ronald Reagan Foundation is run by MAGA right now. There's no Reagan people left in there anymore. Critics call the campaign a reckless PR stunt that risked real diplomatic and economic fallout. Others, however, praised Ford for standing up to Washington and turning a provincial issue into a continental conversation. Actually, worldwide conversation, really. Even some American commentators admitted the campaign was a masterclass in political jiu-jitsu, using an opponent's reaction to magnify your own message. Wow, he stepped right into it. Where things stand now. Ford announced that the campaign would pause after the World Series weekend, citing hopes of resuming trade talks and de-escalating tensions. Prime Minister Mark Carney expressed confidence that negotiations would resume soon, while also hinting that Canada would continue to stand up for its industries with confidence and creativity. Analysts note that the damage and visibility are already done. Ford's ad may have strained diplomacy, but it also cemented Ontario's narrative that it will push back against unfair U.S. tariffs by any means necessary. even if that means outmaneuvering Washington in its own media backyard. In short, Doug Ford may have created the most expensive trade ad in Canadian history, but thanks to Trump's overreaction, it might also be the most effective. If you enjoyed this rundown, please like, please subscribe, please share. Again, share, because I'm trying to grow the channel. We're only 497,000 away from 500,000. Also, if you like the Dad Rant Bingo game, please let me know in the comments. We'll do this again if you liked it. Thank you so much. Go play outside.